Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to deep dive on rhythm playing for metal guitar. We're going to look at a couple of concepts today. We're going to actually dig into a little bit of music theory and look at rhythm notation and how you can understand it easily so that you can play your parts more effectively and you can become a more accomplished metal guitar player. We're going to look at how we pair rhythmic subdivisions with our picking patterns on the guitar to be tighter, more accurate, more efficient, faster, and cleaner. And then we're going to work through 28 rhythmic exercises I put together for you guys so you can help develop your metal chops and do everything from breakdowns, machine gun style thrash parts, galloping, reverse galloping, and all of that fun metal stuff. So let's get stuck into it. So the first thing, if you haven't watched my video on the #1 mistake that metal guitar players make sure that you do. There's some really important concepts that are explored in that video that will work as a bit of a foundation for today's video and help you become a better metal guitar player. With that out of the way, let's get chugging and let's get stuck in today's video. Okay, so the first section we're going to explore is rhythm notation and its relationship with theory and tablature. Now, it's really common at this point for people to check out because they think music theory, boring, right? As guitarists, we tend to ignore this stuff. We ignore music notation, all of this stuff because we think it's going to inhibit us as players or that it's too complex to understand. But it's actually quite easy once you know what you're doing and once you've been shown correctly. If you came up like me, I learned from guitar tab as a kid. I also learned to read music in at schools and symphonies that I played for because I had to interact with other musicians. But as a guitarist, you actually do not need to learn music notation. You don't need to learn to read music if you don't want to. But I do encourage you to learn to read rhythm notation because modern tabs today on sites like Songstar, Ultimate Guitar, or software like Guitar Pro actually have the rhythmic notation written in with the tabs. When I was coming up as a player younger, tabs were literally just the positions of where to play and they didn't include anything about rhythm. So it was even tougher to learn guitar at that point. But now on all the modern tab sites and software, it includes the rhythm notation with it to make it easier so that you can actually understand how long your notes go for and where to play them on guitar. Now, this isn't going to be a video on music notation in terms of the notes. That's a concept we can maybe explore in another video, and if I get enough people commenting that they want that, I will look at putting that together. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you comment below. But we're going to borrow from the music notation world and look at the rhythm notation so that we can become better guitarists. I'm going to open up my software in Guitar Pro and guide you through with a screen share of what everything means. All of the rhythmic values, all of the rhythmic subdivisions that are common in metal, and then what they look like as rests too. If you understand all these things, you'll be a far more effective player. You'll be able to do everything that is found in metal. Gallops, reverse gallops, machine gun parts, thrash parts, breakdowns, whatever you want to do. Now, a couple of prefaces for this lesson. My guitar is set up in E standard, and for most of the rhythmic parts, I am using the bottom E string palm muted. So if you don't know what palm muting is, it's a basic metal technique that you definitely need to know if you want to be a great rhythm player. You simply take this part of your hand, rest it on the strings where the bridge meets the strings, and then turn your hand inwards, and you'll get this chuggy sound. Open, palm muted. Okay, now without further ado, let's get into the next part of this lesson. Okay guys, so I'm in my Guitar Pro software now and we're going to use a screen share to start to study rhythm notation here. A couple of points. I'm going to explore what the notes actually are called, how long their value is rhythmically, what they actually look like in terms of notation, and then what the rests are as well. And we're going to explore a bunch of different ones, which you can see here as a bit of an intro. So when you're studying your songs, you'll be able to put together from looking at the tabs that have the rhythmic notation with it, like on Songstar, Guitar Pro, or Ultimate Guitar Pro, you'll be able to tell the rhythm if you actually understand this theory well. And then also the tabs obviously tell you where to play. So we're gonna get the best of both worlds here. So the first thing we're gonna start with is what's called a whole note. So you'll see my time signature here is 4/4. Now what this means is that there are 4 beats in a bar. So if we have a count, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple. So a whole note is just playing a note that lasts for 4 beats. It sounds like this. Pretty simple. Now our rests just look like this. So there'll be one rest in the bar because the bar needs to add up to 4 because we're in 4/4. So there would just be a rest that looks like this in the notation. Now moving on to half notes. So with half notes, we still need to be in 4/4, which means we need 4 beats in a bar. But when you see this guy, we're getting into sort of hockey stick territory here with a white circle down the bottom. This means a rhythmic value of 2 beats. So we get 2 of them in a bar to equal our 4 beats in total. So when you hear this in context of music, it sounds like this. Pretty easy with that one. Now our rests look like this. We'll have 2 of these guys in a bar, which means that we have a count of 2, and those both need to add up to 4 because again, we are in 4/4. So moving into quarter note territory now. Quarter notes is where we have a note that equals 1 beat out of 4 in a bar. So if we put 4 together, we will equal our 4 count. And the count for this, I'm starting to put in the counts so that you guys can actually hear what they sound like. Will just be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And our rests start to look like this. So we change here. Okay, now moving to eighth notes. These are half a beat in rhythmic value. So we need 8 of them to add up to 4 in total so that we stay in our 4/4 count. So the count for these is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And our rests look like this. Excellent. Now 16th notes. So these equal a quarter of a beat. So to fill up 1 beat, we need 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see our second beat here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our third beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now our count is 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. Like this. Now my Guitar Pro is cutting that off a little bit there. I do apologize. So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Let's hear it. It'll sound like this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. And our rests look like this. Excellent. So our next one, we're getting into triplet eighth notes here. So these equal a third of a beat. So we need 3 of them as a grouping to equal 1 full beat. And then you'll see this is my first beat, my second beat, third beat, fourth beat to equal 4 total beats in the bar to stay in 4/4. Now the count for this is 1 Ali, 2 Ali, 3 Ali, 4 Ali. So it sounds like this. 1 Ali, 2 Ali, 3 Ali, 4 Ali. And our rests look like this. You'll see we're grouped in little 3-note clusters here. All right, now to get into the super metal stuff. Now this is a rhythmic subdivision that is pretty much exclusive to metal and very prominent in a lot of thrash metal in particular, and then also a lot of groove metal. So these are called gallops. So in a gallop, we have 2 quarter notes and a half note to equal 1 full beat. So you'll see they're grouped like this. So 1 beat, then this will be the 2, 3, 4. The count 1 ER, 2 ER, 3 ER, 4 ER. It sounds like this. 1 ER, 2 ER, 3 ER, 4 ER, 1 ER, 2 ER, 3 ER, 4 ER. All right, they're called gallops because they sound like a horse. And our last one, the reverse gallop, this is pretty prominent in a lot of hardcore and metalcore, this style of beat. This time we put the half beat at the start and we follow it by 2 quarter beats, equaling our 1 beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Our count for this is 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 4 and a. Or sometimes people will say, as one of my music conductors in school said, pineapple, 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 pineapple. Let's hear it. Pineapple, 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 pineapple. Okay, so that's part 1 of this video lesson done now. We should have a pretty thorough understanding of music notation theory and what everything means and what you guys are going to see when you're learning metal songs on the internet using tabs. But now what we need to study is our strokes on the guitar and how we marry these up with these different picking patterns to be effective. Now, the most important thing for this section that we need to understand is the notation for downstrokes and upstrokes, which I will put here. Okay guys, so let's start playing some stuff together. We're going to look at rhythmic subdivisions here and how they marry up with your right hand and which stroke you're actually going to use on these common formations of different rhythms in metal playing. So the first one we're going to look at is quarter notes. And with quarter notes, often in metal, we have a choice of whether we want to down pick them or alternate pick them. So if we're down picking, we're going to play each of these strokes with downs consistently. So this is very reminiscent of early Metallica and James Hetfield's style. And it will sound like this. Okay, now we can also take the same pattern and we can alternate pick it, which will sound like this. Both of these picking patterns are very common in metal and will be used in different ways. So a lot of early Metallica will be more down-picked. And then a lot of Megadeth will be more alternate-picked at times. Now we're going to look at the fast stuff. So this is 16th note playing. Now with 16th note playing, it tends to be sometimes called thrash picking. But with this stuff, we're actually playing a lot more notes and we're using 16th notes, and we need to rely on alternate picking with these patterns. So what we're going to do is play essentially 4 notes a beat, and we're going to go down, up on this beat. So every time you're hitting the beat, you should be hitting on a downstroke, and this forms your marker so that you actually know where you are on the beat. So when we start on a downstroke with a 16th note pattern, it will sound like this. Like that, okay? You want it nice and tight, so make sure that you finish on an upstroke at the end of your picking patterns when you're using 16th notes. Now, something that is very, very rare, but sometimes used when we have, say, a triplet pattern before a 16th note pattern and we get our strokes mucked up, is to actually use an upstroke on the beat and reverse the picking pattern. So this will be up, down for those 4 note groupings for 16ths. This is a little trickier. It will sound like this. There's not really too much of a difference other than the picking pattern on the right hand, which can be a little difficult to switch into upstrokes on the beat. Okay, so let's talk triplets next. So triplets, we obviously have 3 notes per beat. So this will change up the picking pattern for every triplet grouping. On the first beat, we will be down, up, down. On the second beat, we will invert it, up, down, up. So this, and then a down to finish on an 8th note. So they sound like this. Like that. They get their name, gallops, obviously because they sound like a horse when we put them in sequence. If we put 4 of them in a row, sound like this. Now, something that was really popularized in the metalcore era and the hardcore scene was the reverse gallop. So this is actually where we start on the 8th note and then we have the 2 16th notes in quick succession after it. So it sounds like this. And the picking pattern for this is down, down, up. Okay, we do that in succession. Okay guys, so now with the first 2 sections out of the way, we're going to get practical. In this next section, I've designed 28 exercises to help you guys study rhythm guitar and become better metal guitarists. It should encompass almost every technique that you will see in metal rhythm playing and give you guys plenty to work on. Now, some exercises are harder than others, so take note of the tricky ones. You can also comment the tricky ones below as well. Even some of these trip me up a little bit and you have to be very careful, particularly when you're playing triplets. But if you follow this sequence, you'll be developing your metal chops, and this should give you some ideas that you can apply to your own metal playing, whether you're in bands or whether you're just writing by yourself. I'm looking forward to hearing what you come up with. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, awesome guys. So how did you go? Comment below which one of the exercises got you the most and that you think was the trickiest. And now that you've got all your chugging sorted, make sure you check out some of my other videos on this channel to help you become a better metal guitar player.